Mormons are teaching their children about plural marriage. Let's read the children's story they just came out with. And just so you're aware, this is targeted towards 3 to 11-year-olds. This is titled Plural Marriage, Faith to Obey a Law from the Lord Even When It's Hard. While the prophet Joseph was studying the Bible, he read about prophets like Abraham and Moses who had been married to more than one wife. Joseph wondered how the Lord felt about that, so he decided to ask the Lord. The Lord said that usually a man should only have one wife, but sometimes the Lord commanded his people to be in marriages of one man and more than one woman. This was called plural marriage. The Lord told Joseph that his people should only be in plural marriages if he commands it. Funny, considering that Joseph got into these marriages before the Lord ever commanded it. Look how distraught Joseph is over this problem of having more than one wife. A few years later, the Lord told Joseph to marry other women. Joseph didn't want to marry other wives. Of course he didn't. But he knew it was a commandment from the Lord. When Joseph asked a woman to marry him, he told her to pray about it. He wanted her to know from the Lord that it was right. I wonder what that was like when you were a minor, 14, 15 years old, and the prophet, mayor of the town, head of everything in charge comes to you and says, "The Lord wants you to pray about this. He wants you to marry me." This is grooming. And they're teaching the 3 to 11-year-olds today that this kind of grooming was okay. This commandment was also hard for Joseph's first wife, Emma. Sometimes Emma helped Joseph decide who he should ask to marry him. Other times, Emma did not want Joseph to marry other women, but he did it anyway. He had a lot of marriages his wife didn't know about, and he had a lot of marriages with women who were already married to men that he wouldn't tell them about. Joseph taught the 12 apostles about plural marriage. It was a hard commandment for them too. I'm sure it was. We can't leave out Brigham Young since he had more wives than Joseph. Brigham Young and his wife Mary Ann prayed a lot to the Lord about what to do. They learned that they should obey the commandment of plural marriage. For many years, some of the saints were asked to be in plural marriages. People outside the church did not like plural marriage. They made laws against it. Some saints, including church leaders, were put in prison. But the Lord blessed the families who obeyed his commandments, even when it was hard. So remember, we're teaching the 3 to 11-year-olds that if some sort of figure of authority comes to you and asks you to do something because the Lord commanded it, you should do it because even if it's hard, it will still bless you. I'm surprised they've come out with this in light of all of the Boy Scout abuse cases and things like that. It's almost as if whoever wrote this wasn't even considering how this is going to look towards children who are at risk for abuse and for grooming. Like, this is leading them to fall for those things. In 1890, the Lord told Wilford Woodruff, the president of the church, that men should not marry more than one wife anymore. The leaders of the church shared this commandment with the saints. This is still the Lord's commandment today. A man should only marry one wife. Remember, it has to be a man and a woman. Gay marriage is not allowed. After this revelation was given, there were still many saints who secretly practiced polygamy under the church's direction. They just didn't want the law to find out about it. And they didn't want the people to find out about it because they knew it would make them look bad. What do you think of this new children's story they're going to have the little kids studying? With little cartoon pictures of how hard it is for Joseph and the wives. But, they don't call them women. They call the men, and the women wives. And they also don't have any pictures of all these extra wives with these people. It's almost like they're still keeping it a secret, or they don't want the portrayal of it. I don't understand what they're trying to teach the kids. I get that they're trying to be more open about the church's history, but this was not okay when they did it. And we're saying it was okay. It was not okay. Many of these people did this against their will. Many people were coerced. They were tricked. They were brainwashed into thinking that they needed to obey this whether they liked it or not. Because faith to obey a law from the Lord, even when it's hard, will bring them blessings.